Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Wolff Den. This is the place to be. It really is. And I'm Mark Moyer. Thanks for having me, Matt. You're amazing. And we're brought to you by the Win Again Academy. Take it.
Thanks for joining, Mark. Great to have you here today. I thought we'd do a little bit of a different introduction since I always say the Wolff Den presented by Win Again Academy. So tell everybody who doesn't know what Win Again Academy is.
Thanks for asking, Matt. So what the Academy is for is athletes, whether you were a student athlete, a professional, an amateur, and you're currently playing or you're retired, we help athletes transition from their sport to their next great career. And we host events in the Clubroom as part of the Academy membership, where we bring in some big names to talk about a variety of topics. It might be mental health awareness. It might be financial literacy. It might be how to be on LinkedIn. It might be how to prepare for an interview, how to negotiate an offer, all kinds of topics. And we bring in some great names. But just as importantly, the networking capabilities within the Clubroom are absolutely incredible.
Yeah, so I've been at a bunch of these events, and I can agree that they are both great networking and also very high quality athletes. Yesterday was Brandy Chastain. Yeah, I was at one with Harry Douglas of the Falcons. Marshall Falk, I understand, was in it before I got there. So how are you connected to all these people? I mean, how do you get people? Because I understand trying to get people on the Wolff Den. It's not an easy task necessarily, but we've done okay in getting some people.
You got me. No, I'm kidding. That was really easy, actually. So the short version is it's the power of networking, and it's asking, right? But asking with the intention of not completely benefiting from something. So one of the most important things I've found is that with most of these athletes, if you speak to them in a way that, number one, you're not speaking as a fan, but as a potential business partner or partner going forward, and you can help them with whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish going forward, whether it's their business or a foundation or whatever it might be, and you offer value first, and then you make that ask and you say, listen, it'd be awesome if you came into the Clubroom and spent 30, 40 minutes talking about, we can talk about your foundation or your company or what you're doing, but I also want you to provide value to everybody that's attending. That usually does a trick. And, it may take a couple of calls or emails and so forth, but it's effective.
Yeah, I find, look, the people I have on the Wolff Den, I want to hear their story. So I had J.D. Eicher yesterday, who was a singer-songwriter. He came out and sang some songs. We've had some athletes on as well. But also the value is that I don't care how many followers you have. I have people in my network that have no idea who you are. So I can bring you to a new audience, and it doesn't matter if it's one person or 10 people or 100 people. There's value in that, especially with these athletes who are moving on to a different venture, to say, look, I'm not just going to buy XYZ because you're this person, right? I want to hear, what you have to say. And I've been blown away by the kind of the business acumen of the athletes and the kind of stuff that they're doing off the field, which is, I don't want to say as impressive as on the field, but some of it is, it's all so many good causes. So, when you're looking at the guests, how do you focus on what you want them to talk about?
Well, first and foremost, I like to bring in athletes who have a level of charisma, and they're interesting, and they're funny, and they're smart, and they are driven. Look, most athletes are driven, but there's some that some of them give off that appearance that they're mailing it in a little bit after they retire and that sort of thing. And that's not what this is about. I mean, to me, at least the events that I like to host, it's all about elevating everybody. And I think what you're going to find is that, for example, last night with Brandy, not only were people talking to her about ways that people that they could connect her with for her business and what she's doing, but at the same time, she was offering people her connections. So it's it's one of those things where we never know what a conversation will lead to if you just start having that conversation. That's why I think being in an active environment that allows for networking, not for the sake of finding a job, but for the sake of increasing someone's, whether it's their business or their career, but doing it in a way that's very sort of, I like to say, proactive and not reactive. It's, it's really amazing to see that happen. And look, one thing I like to say is that athletes are drawn to successful business people, and business people are drawn to successful athletes, right? So if you can create a sort of ecosystem that brings them both together, lots of things happen.
Yeah, I love the networking piece of it. Don't get me wrong, the educational piece of it is great too. But for me, getting in there and just being able to get more visibility, really, because you're getting in front of people, and from there, it's up to you to be able to carve that relationship. But to me, I go on webinars all the time, and I say, if there's no chat room in there, I'm logging off. It's not worth my half hour to just listen to some of this content, because I can always find it later. Generally, it's on repeat. But there's something about missing. Like, you could put your thing on repeat and play that, but you'd be missing out on the networking, which is a huge part of what you're doing, which is why people should definitely be joining this, your events. And it could be a viable thing without the presentations, and just to get people in. We do something with Tim Claiborne that, he has some people too, but it's really just more about networking with people in the industry. How did you get into sports? Did you play sports when you were growing up? Did you have aspirations to be a professional athlete like all of us? I don't know who this is, but something wrong with LinkedIn.
Wow, it's a
compliment.
It's every morning I get excited to see my face too.
Yeah. And Brent's a big fan of the program and supportive.
Cool.
But he doesn't. I'm not sure who Mark is.
Anyway, so look, the short version is that I started out playing tennis in college, and then I switched over to my last year. I played rugby. The sport was amazing, but the social aspect was also incredible. And it's possible that I was drawn to a sport that included lots of beer drinking. Nowadays, and this is 30 whatever years later, they don't do the beer drinking. It's a very serious sport with tons of training, and the athletes are really incredible. But it was a great sport to play. I had zero aspirations to compete professionally. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a professional baseball player, absolutely, but that didn't quite materialize. But I ended up in this space. For a living, I've done a lot of executive search and recruiting, and then that shifted into more career and business coaching. And then I started working with a retired NHL player about 4 years ago. And I was able to get him from his couch and being pretty depressed to starting a new job on a trading desk within 5 weeks. And he basically sent me a note, and he said, "Mark, you've completely changed my life and my family's life, and we're forever indebted." And I did one of those, who's he talking to? That's like, I was like caught off guard. And then he said, "Mark, you really need to work with athletes, because we basically get kicked to the curb when we leave our sport." And that really prompted me to write my book, and which is a job search playbook for athletes transitioning. And then from there, it was all about starting to work with athletes, and then trying to figure out a way to create a community of athletes that can all get together with business people, which became the Clubroom.
So in writing the book, how do you come up, like, what compelled you to write the book, and how did you find the material to write the book?
And I just happen to have a copy right here, Matt. Isn't this a remarkable win again? So what I tell people is this is my $10,000 coaching program and a $20 book. It's basically everything from figuring out what is your true identity outside of being an athlete. And then from there, really, figuring out, okay, not only do I know what I want to be now, but now I'm going to determine, create a personal marketing pitch that goes from then starting to develop a network and having a target list of people to reach out to and connect with, what to say to them, how to say it to them, when to say it to them. From there, it's all about starting to develop that network that leads to casual conversations, that leads to meetings and interviews and eventually offers. And we talk about how to prepare for an interview, how to crush an interview, how to negotiate an offer, but everything in the whole job search spectrum from, geez, I have no idea what I want to do, to starting your new job and how you crush it while you're in that job. And the book itself really almost wrote itself, in the sense that I've been putting out content about all these different things throughout and my career, and I've become an expert in knowing what it takes to get someone hired from my 20 whatever years in executive search. So I don't want to say it wrote itself, because it was a huge task, but But I wrote it in a way that made it just do this and you'll see the positive result, because athletes love to be coached. They've been coached their whole lives, and they understand that if they know that there's going to be a positive result at the end and they do A, B, C, D, and E or whatever it is, they'll get to that result. And so it's just simply a book filled with do this, do this, do this, do this. It's not let's examine your inner whatever it is and let's go on a journey together. I mean, the one analogy I like to say, Matt, is that every athlete, when they leave their sport, it's almost like they're on a life raft and they're in the middle of the ocean and they have a big giant paddle because they're strong athletes, and they're paddling like crazy and they're paddling. But the problem is they don't know where to paddle. They see just ocean all around them. So what I try to teach them is, well, listen, that next great career that you're going to want and have is a tropical island, and it's that way. And tell you what, we're going to start paddling like hell to get there, but scratch that. Take that life raft, throw it back in the back of my power boat, and let's just get our asses over there. Let's just get there to that island, because that's where you're going to succeed. That's when you're going to feel like you're relevant again. You're almost like entering that stadium again, and you're hearing the cheers again. You're contributing. You're excited to be part of something. You wake up every morning with intention, and that's really what we want to get to.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people who are coaching and coaches, especially in the athlete realm, and trying to help them with finances and all of that. So what's your differentiator? What would you say? What would you like to tell people is, why me?
So most coaches, and I guess I'm throwing my industry under the bus a little bit, so I'll be careful how I say it.
We always do that.
Yeah, I know. I'm a bus thrower. No, I don't know. Anyway, but I get frustrated because most coaches, they'll say, during our 6-month program, we're going to discuss, and I'm thinking, what? Who has 6 months? When I talk to someone, they want to get off their couch and in a job or working at a business or starting their own business tomorrow, that night, whatever it is. So I believe that my differentiator is we get things done immediately. We get it done quickly, but we do it in the right way, not just to do it for the sake of doing it. And my whole approach, and I said it earlier, is being proactive, not reactive. Every person out there, when they're looking for a job, they wake up in the morning, they flip open their laptop, they type in a bunch of things, they look at who's hiring, they say, oh, I guess I can do that job, and they apply. So they apply to 10 jobs that day, they pat themselves on the back, they close their laptop, and they do something else. They work out, whatever hell it is. It's a disaster, because what happens, they get 0 for 10 every day, 0 for 10, because they're not hearing back. Their resume doesn't stand out amongst the 200 resumes they could apply to. Usually those jobs are already filled, and their confidence plummets. But they're like, well, I don't know what else to do. And my approach is different. I say, you decide, what is your dream job? What would you love to do next? Or if it's a business, what business would you love to start next? And then we start making connections with those people that'll get us there. And that's the big differentiator. I see most coaches are nurturers, and they again, help you examine this and that. I don't have time for that stuff. I want someone to be doing what they love doing tomorrow. Yeah. And that's it.
And I find as I've gotten older and followed sports a little bit more, that the athletes are preparing a little bit more for the future than whether it's they're in college and they're not going to be a pro, or whether it's they're an athlete and they're like, look, I'm eventually going to retire. I don't know that I'm going to be able to stay in this industry. A lot of people just become commentators. I mean, there's certain things that they're going to be able to get their foot in the door very easily, just because of who they are. I really enjoyed the NCAA. You remember the NCAA commercials that said, I'm an athlete, but I'm going to be, this, and I'm going to be, because like 1% of people go on to play. I mean, that's crazy to think how few people make it to the pros, but how many people bank on making it to the pros. So there's a real big differentiator there.
Well, look, and I think that's one thing that's lacking, Matt, is that, most athletes, when they leave high school and they go into college, there are obviously, I don't even know how many thousands of colleges, universities that are out there that they can go play at, and they feel like they really have a shot at the pros. And as you just said, it's something like 1%. And I think it's actually less than 1% that actually make it to, quote, the pros, right? But then at the same time, if you're playing, I don't know, if you're a swimmer or a skier or water polo, whatever it is, there's no pros. necessarily. So maybe it's Olympics, but it's I think sometimes the perception is that we see on television LeBron James or Derek Jeter or whatever it is, and we don't realize that there are 95% of the athletes that make it to the pros that are not necessarily at that level, and they're not making enough money to survive the rest of their lives on that amount. And it's a struggle, and they get injured, and there's a lot of things that you don't necessarily see that in the general public.
Yeah, Brent had a comment about one of his friends who played in the NFL and then got hired to help players prepare for posts. Now, I know they have rookie symposiums and all the leagues have certain stuff like this. From the athletes that I've talked to, it sounds like it's more of a perception than a reality. And so a lot of these players do need, assistance. So it's good and there's a lot of it out there. We had Malcolm Lemons on, who does, talks about mental health and how to prepare afterwards. So there's a lot of people who actually have been in it and that are helping, and then people like you who are opening it up and just giving these people an opportunity to talk to other people, to understand the struggle, that I'm not alone. And this is maybe what's normal. Like, this is normal, whether you're an athlete or not. This is the normal process, and it's really cutthroat out there. And they know that part about it, because they were they were that 1%. But now you think about trying to get a job, you're even smaller than the 1%, right? Because it's 1,000 people apply and it's only going to hire one person.
Well, look, so a couple things from there. Number one is that and I'm going to ruffle some feathers here, but I'm not a big fan of the NFL, the NBA, NHL, et cetera, hiring former players to sort of run those the programs afterwards, because they're really good at being a former athlete, but they don't have that expertise in teaching people how to find a job or how to start a business. That is not what they've been trained to do. And so it's wonderful if defensive lineman becomes pals with and plays golf with all the people that are retiring and says, well, it's really tough, but you just got to stick strong and stick to it. Great. So that's a good thing to have. But what they're really lacking, absolutely lacking, is the ability to really show people how to how do you network? What is the best way to network? What do you say to people? How do you follow up with them? When you connect with them on LinkedIn, what do you say to them? How do you prepare for an interview? How do you kick ass the interview? These are all things that I believe the different sports entities need to bring in more career experts and job search experts and business experts, instead of a lot of the retired athletes. No offense, retired athletes, you provide a great service, but you need to bring in more of the people that can actually give the athletes actionable items. This is what you do: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just do it. And that's something that's lacking to me.
I think it's all important because some of what they bring is, hey, don't do this, don't fall into this trap, as opposed to, hey, here's the path you need to take. There's like, here's the path you don't want to take. Now try and find a way to avoid that path and then go on. So it's look, everyone needs help. It doesn't matter who you are. All these people, even the business people like Shaq and Jordan, I mean, they didn't just come out one day and say, I want to be a businessman. Yes, they leveraged who they were, but it's a lot of it is about having the right people around you. And that's true no matter where you're at. The CEOs are the ones who are getting the credit, but they're having these people who are making the day-to-day decisions around them. So that's, to me, that's a real important thing, and something that people can be coached about, for sure.
Well, and you're absolutely right. And what's interesting is a friend of mine, J.R. Tolliver, he played in the NFL a little bit, and he was at San Diego State for a while. Great guy. He talks about every athlete should have a huddle around them, surround themselves with, so they're the QB, but they've got to have, and he had I'm going to do this wrong, and he had something like 6 A's, but it's like an accountant and an attorney and an advocate. And he had a bunch of A's that really talked about how you have that, you surround yourself with people that are the true people that can support you as you grow. And I think that's really important, especially as an athlete, either nears retirement or is retired, to have that sort of huddle, that ecosystem that's really going to offer them the best guidance. Unfortunately, we all know that there's a lot of predators out there, I'll call them, that like to, They love to feed off of the, they see big dollar signs that the athletes have. And it's not just, financial advisors and that kind of stuff, but it's also insurance or legal, or, gee, you know what, you should buy this really nice home in somewheresville and all that kind of. So there's so many people constantly chasing down these athletes for ideally their money.
You haven't out how many, like what percentage are legit and what percentage are just trying to play the game?
Well, and so there's legit and not legit, but then there's also that fuzzy middle part where they genuinely want to help, but they also genuinely want that person's money.
And that's it, right.
And therefore what you find is that every athlete is completely, they don't trust anybody going in. And it's really, so that was the biggest adjustment for me when I started coaching athletes. They all thought like, wait, what do you, what's this? What are you doing this for? Why are you helping me? What's in it for you? I was like, I don't know. I'm helping you out. That's what I do. And they're like, no, there's something else up. And that caught me off guard because I was working so much with executives in the finance space that they just realized I was helping them, that athletes were like, wait a minute, what's the, what do you got up your sleeve kind of a thing. So it took a little while to get past that.
No, I had that the other day. I was saying, hey, let me help you on this, put an hour on my calendar. And it's like, well, what's it going to cost? I said, nothing. It's not going to cost anything. I just want to help because I can.
Yeah.
And if you have some way to help me because you can, that's fine. If you know someone else, that's fine. There's always, I think, one of the things that we'll disagree on, you and I, and is in the networking space, I'm okay with people coming right out and asking for something. If it's done right, if it's the right context, if it's something that is useful. So me coming right out and saying, hey, would you like to invest your money in this thing? Or, what's your insurance look like? No. But me coming out and saying, hey, look, I'd like to connect and just have a conversation about how I can help. I think that we can build the relationship as we go. I don't have to be friends with you first. It's very hard. A lot of it's not, to me, it's not genuine. It's just a lot of small talk. And look, if you want to do small talk, I'll do small talk. If you're genuinely interested in that. But if you're not, we could just save each other time and, be open and honest with people. I've had calls where people are like, I'm not calling here to do this, or I'm not reaching out to this. I'm like, well, I know you are, and it's okay that you are. It's kind of disingenuous for you to say that you're not. So,
No, I do agree. I don't think we differ on that. I think that, there's a time and a place to make your ask, but your ask should only happen after it's clear that you're the type that can return the favor or return the ask. And, it's funny. I try to surround myself as much as I can with givers and not takers. There's plenty of takers out there, and they're usually pretty easy to spot, based on just how they're conversing with you, or anybody else. So with that said, though, look, Matt, you're a pro at this, and you know how to talk to a lot of these folks. And I think that, that's why, your business is doing well. And this platform is fantastic because it's just a question of, again, most people are afraid to ask things, and they build up that fear of asking so high when in the end of the day, the other person's like, yeah, of course I'll do it. They're so worried about asking when the answer is going to be an easy one.
This guy right here, classic case. Always worried about asking for things. They're worried about what the other person will say. He's got to chat. He's one of my closest friends, so I could talk to him about him like that. He's a very good supporter of the of Ticket Time Machine and the Wolff Den, and so I find that it's a good point because I find that the people that are in my circle, there's nothing I won't ask them for or say because I understand that I give it, and I'm a very big taker. Don't get me wrong, I take a lot, but I give a lot. And it's a good point because it's hard if people don't know that about you, they might automatically think that. But everyone who knows me knows I'll give everything that I ask for in return.
Right.
So,
well, look, like for example, let's just say last night with Brandy Chastain, it's an ask to have her, dedicate what ended up being 3 hours of her day in the club room. But she also benefited greatly because she met people that could be potentially really big for her down the road. Yeah. So as long as I'm confident in my ability, as you just said a second ago, to give that back and to provide that value, then then I have zero qualms about making the ask. If it was something where I didn't think I could deliver, then I would have a feeling that conversation would be one and done. And I need to go into every relationship thinking that this is a relationship that will last 20 years or longer. I've been, kicking around for a long time, and, I can safely say that most of the people I know, I've known for a long time, and I can pick up the phone anytime and call them. And that's the important thing. I mean, as you know, with your business, Matt, reputation is everything. And, keeping it pristine and keeping it in a way where people are happy to refer you to others because they can count on the fact that you'll give back. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, it's important to me to have a real tight circle, and that's with my personal life and professionally. I'd like to expand it. I like to have as many people in, but it takes some time to figure out who is worth, being in that, I guess, inner circle, which is tough. I've had people in the inner circle that I realized probably shouldn't have been there, and people that you've known for a long time. Sometimes you always hear that on the news. Like when someone does bad, you're just like, well, he was the nicest person. I never would have thought he would have done that. And I'm like, well, not everyone is the nicest person, but sometimes some people are harder to figure out than others. But I agree that, everyone who comes on your show does get a benefit. We'd love to have Brandy and Chad on to talk about City Cheers, and I guarantee that there's people who've never heard of Brandy, or City Cheers. So it's always good to push things that are good. And I talk about that all the time. I guess I'm probably more unique. I don't need you to pay me to promote your stuff necessarily. I'm happy to do it, but if I like what you're doing, I'm going to help promote what you're doing. And I think sometimes people are too worried about, I had a guest who wouldn't tell me what their favorite beverage was because they weren't paying them.
Oh, no way. Oh my God. That's hilarious.
But I get it in some respects. I get it, but at the end of the day, you use it all the time. I think it's weird.
I suppose if they're under some sort of contract that they're not allowed to mention or something, but
no, but endorsements are huge. I mean,
yeah.
People are pitching product because you give them money, and it's like it's weird. There's some weird stuff out there. I wouldn't really want to pay anyone to promote Ticket Time Machine necessarily, like an athlete. I just want you to really think that what we're doing is great and cool. And hey, man, we got involved with it.
Well, one thing I do want to mention though, Matt, is Ticket Time Machine. You can get all kinds of amazing ticket products with Matt and his Ticket Time Machine. Make sure you use the products, please.
Show the Tyson Jones one.
Yeah.
And we had JD on. It's just cool, right? I mean, it's
there we go. Piece. Product placement.
We'll let you pitch. We'll let you pitch. Let's talk about, while we're on this topic, let's talk about some of the organizations that you support with Win Again Academy, because they're doing great things. All right.
Well, there's a few, but the one that I talk about all the time, and you've heard me speak of them quite a bit, Matt, is an organization they're based out west, but they're called Every Kid Sports. And Every Kid Sports, they raise money to basically pay the first $150 of every kid's sport. If they wanted to play baseball, Little League baseball, or Pop Warner football, or hockey, or tennis, or whatever the heck they want to play, this organization will come in and go into neighborhoods where the kids don't necessarily have the capability, or their parents, et cetera, don't have the ability to pay for the kid to play sports. And so they'll come in and take care of the tab for a lot of these kids. And it's such a, I think everybody won't dispute the importance of getting a child to just play catch, throw a ball, hit a hockey puck, shoot a basketball, whatever it is. Because, when you play a sport, number one, it's great for your, exercise and so forth, but it also exercises your brain, and it gives you that sense of competition and of stamina, but also it really develops you much more as a human being for your future life and business and so forth. And it also keeps you away from doing stuff you shouldn't be doing necessarily. So to me, getting kids involved in sports is just so essential today. And that organization is fantastic. And so I recommend that everybody who's able to check out their website, everykidsports.org. I hope I got that right. But
sports, they'll find it.
Yeah.
Such a great organization, such a great idea. There's a lot. We have people who are helping in that cause, and I forgot who it was, but it was like we had. They're going to hate me for this for not remembering. I got too much stuff going on.
Yeah.
An organization that is bringing veterans to play golf to have a day.
That's great. That's awesome. That's
And
awesome.
but you don't realize how expensive it is to play sports as you're growing. Especially the better you get, the more expensive it gets.
Yeah.
And you can't even get to that level unless you get to start at it. So it's like a lot of these people aren't going to get to play some of these sports. Look, basketball, anyone can play basketball, right? Someone always has a ball. You go to a court.
Yeah.
Tennis, you kind of need to, it's a little bit easier, but not everyone has equal access to tennis courts. Certainly golf is a very expensive habit. Hockey can be, baseball, as you get into more travel, like everything's travel. Even soccer is, travel soccer, and they're traveling around. You don't have a sponsor. So we want to get people doing it for a lot of the reasons that you mentioned. And it's, I think it's great what they do.
Yeah. And I think there's a push now to, because so many of these sports have become travel oriented and very expensive. I believe that it really prices out a lot of the kids and young adults that can be playing because they just simply can't afford it. And I think there should be more of a push towards almost going back to just playing Little League Baseball, just getting together in your town and playing with a bunch of the kids, and not worrying about playing it year round and going on, these big tournaments and so forth. I think, and it turns out my son was doing travel baseball and all, but I could see how, to me, it can turn off a kid from wanting to play a sport when they see how intense the parents get and how, and the coaching gets and all that kind of stuff. It's just, for a kid, I think it's a little too much sometimes. So
30 years ago, 35 years ago, we had our Little League.
Yeah.
There were some parents that were outrageous, and basketball too. Really outrageous. There's just, I don't know that it's just sports. I mean, I saw a report yesterday at Popeye's Chicken where there was all kinds of fighting going on at the window. It's crazy. It's just crazy that people, these days are willing to act the way they're willing to act, whether it's at a sporting game or in the mall or at a thing. And it's a lot. We see a lot more of it today because of social media and everyone's got a phone. But man, imagine these people, how embarrassed they'd be if they were on camera, 30 years ago with this.
Well, you know what it is also, and this is me going way off topic a little bit, but I don't know how embarrassed people are anymore. Like, I feel like everybody doesn't they almost don't, like, the filter is gone a little bit, and they, you see so much sort of crazy stuff happening online, whether it's on, anywhere, TikTok, etc., that you kind of wonder, don't these people realize that this is around forever? But they don't care. It's the same sort of thought process that goes into a lot of people that get tattoos, and they're like, yeah, this is a great idea today. And then, a year later, you're like, oh God, what was I thinking? Or 5 years later, 10 years later, right?
See the no regrets one? Instead of no regrets. No regrets.
Well, that's what's going on. So, anyway, but I think that I agree with you that, look, parents have been an issue in sports forever. I think that, as a Little League coach, I had to deal with some of that here and there. And my feeling was, that the kids have much better experience when they enjoy playing versus being scared of the coach or scared of the parents. But, it's unfortunate. I think that every parent who feels the need to live vicariously through their kid needs to take a step back and not do that. And I think that, all parents should read the book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, because that brings out a lot of things that you should just really relax and enjoy and watch what you're seeing instead of getting all amped up about it. But
some of it is there's so much at stake.
Yeah.
Your kid, if your kid excels and gets playing time and, maybe he gets a scholarship and then you save $100,000 and then, who knows? Some of it is disappointment in your kid. Just he or she is not as good as you think they are. That's tough to, because it's hard to be very unbiased about how good your children are at sports. My dad was our coach growing up in baseball and in basketball, and I think he did a pretty good job of staying out of things and, had a pretty good sense of how good we were and not to get crazy about it. Although we did have some issues in high school with not getting enough playing time, and maybe it would have been better if he did step in a little bit. That's for another story.
You know what? I don't know. You kind of, I'm a feeling of, you get what you deserve a little bit to an extent. And look, I think that, and I couldn't agree with you more, Matt. As a parent of a 17-year-old who's a high school senior, he's, a very good baseball player, but he's just sort of lost the spark. And the pandemic really sniffed a lot of that out, because he was supposed to be playing the last year, and a lot of that got shut down, especially in New York City. And you know what? He's not into it as much anymore. And I thought he's a great player, and I would love to see him progress and blah, blah, blah. But you know what? He does. I mean, it's him. And, I think sometimes parents really push what we want our children to be onto them more than we should. They should just, they have their own lives, right?
You have no relation to Jamie Moyer, right?
No, not that I know, not yet.
No.
But my sister, when she got married in Seattle, and so she bought everyone the Moyer T-shirts, when he was pitching for the Mariners. So,
I love stuff like that.
Yeah,
I think it's great. I want to talk to you a little bit about. Let's get a little controversial.
Sweet.
Athletes and staying in their lane. You hear this a lot, and I'm just like, look, the Charles Barkley commercial to me said it all. I'm not a role model, but he could be, right? And so I don't listen to these people because of who they are, but I don't dismiss what they have to say because of who they are. I think the lines for that kind of goes with which side you're on. If you're if you don't like what Steve Kerr is saying, you're gonna probably say he shouldn't be saying it. But I know him and Popovich. I don't know him, but from everything I've read, they're very intelligent people, and I think their opinion. I'm not saying it should be thought of as absolute, but you had that same thing with Zlatan and LeBron James. It's like, oh, dude, LeBron James has a platform, and the stuff that he's doing is incredible with his platform.
Yeah, well, you're right. It's controversial. I personally don't give a flying crap about what any celebrity thinks or says. I think that they feel sometimes that their opinion is worth 100,000 or 1,000,000 opinions, and they, I think, are usually misinformed on whatever topic they might be speaking about, and try to impart their quote wisdom on everybody else. I don't. If LeBron wants to, LeBron can do whatever he wants, and Mike Trout, who people often say should be more outspoken and should be more, leveraging his greatness out there. But he's a private guy, and he thinks, well, you know what? I may have an opinion about this, but I have an opinion about this. No one else needs to care about what I think about this. And you see the same with actors and actresses and all these people that think that we all really care about what they have to say. And that's something that social media has sort of pushed onto us a little bit. And now we have all these influencers and stuff. And I can't believe that we make decisions based on what some moron, on wherever it is thinking and saying. So I don't know.
I have my whole, I call them influencer schmucks.
Exactly.
I keep saying I'm going to write this article, but at the end of the day, it's interesting that we call them influencers, because the word influencer on its own is not a positive or negative thing. It doesn't dictate that it's going to be positive.
Right.
But they are influencers for sure. And I think we're rewarding people for what I call bad behavior. And I don't think we should do that. And then, it could really manipulate things. So again, I really love what LeBron's doing. I think he should stand up for what he believes in. I don't think we should follow everything he does because he's LeBron. But certainly, right. He has the power to, and he probably has talk about having people in your circle. From what I can tell, he'll have people in his circle who know what they're talking about, so he can be more well informed. I
don't know, Matt. But Matt, let me ask you this though: do you feel that? So why is LeBron's opinion more important than, for argument's sake, the seventh guy off the bench for the Knicks or something like that? Like,
but his platform is bigger. So I say that all the same. If I say the same thing as someone else who's an influencer, and I actually did that as a test, I tweeted the same exact thing. It was like a son and a heart, and they got like 1,000 retweets in this, and I put the same thing. Sometimes things just have to be heard from someone else who can make a bigger impact. Like if you and I say the same thing to our stuff, one of us might get a better response on Twitter, one of us might get a better response on LinkedIn, but we're saying the exact same thing. So my point is just, if you have that platform and you want to try and use it for good to make it louder, then I applaud that. I don't think we should listen to them just because of who they are. I agree.
But okay, and this is me arguing with you. Sorry,
No, I like that.
but I mean, look, when you say if it's for good, but again, that's also objective, right? It's also what really means. You know, like,
it is, if I told you that we were talking about the everyday kids in sports, is there anything bad about that if someone's pushing that?
correct. So if someone is saying, look, here's an organization that does blank, but then at the same time, I mean, quite frankly, there might be, look, everyone's competing for a dollar or the dollar. So maybe there's 26,000 other organizations that are equally, if not more, worthy, right, of your dollar, sort of a thing. So, I mean, I might be saying my opinion on, gee, every kid's sports is great, but someone else may say, listen, my mom passed away from cancer, American Cancer Society. Someone else may say, veterans things, PTSD, whatever it might be, wounded warriors, et cetera, et cetera. So, but I think that, but I also think that a lot of these platforms and people really use their platforms, not necessarily for good, but to stoke stuff. And it's like
attention. This whole Cardi B thing on the Grammys last night. I mean, it's controversial, but it's getting attention, and that song got attention, and it's that's part of what it does. I mean, look, you and I you have the people who are higher profile people come on. You could very easily have some lower profile people, but that's what people want to hear. And so, that's part of the problem, is that we keep, and not talking about our stuff, but in a lot of ways, keep putting them higher on a pedestal to say that their stuff carries more weight, but it might just be, the same old tired stuff that they've been saying forever, and not really worthy of people's attention.
No, I totally agree. And look, at the end of the day, I think it's up to the consumer, the listener, the whatever it is, to do what they want or not want with all this stuff. Like, for example, I try my best not to. I barely look at social media because it's easy for me to get sucked into the vortex, right, of like reading people's comments and getting all nuts about it. And I think to myself, I can't believe people actually think this way. But I also can't believe people are actually wasting all this colossal amount of time on social media and doing social media, all that kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, Jesus, they could be so much more productive with so many other things. The amount of, quote, as you said, the amount of good someone can do if they're not jerking around on Facebook for 2 hours or wherever it is, on Twitter, tweeting stuff like that people at the end of the day really shouldn't care about, and it's useless. Instead, they should be going out and doing some good somewhere. I don't know, whatever it is. So
for business, it's integral for my business to put content out there. But I'm looking forward to when I have someone else doing it, so I don't have to.
Yeah, no kidding.
I do. I spend a ton of time, more than I would like to, professionally and personally.
But that's a problem that I'm running into, man, and I bet you are too, where right now there's just so much stuff out there that the quality of your content may be fantastic and mine might be fantastic, but it gets lost in a sea of crap. There's so much just useless stuff out there.
But you'll get the right person instead of the right people. That's why I would say, even with networking, like don't worry about talking to the right people. Worry about talking to the right person. So,
I like that.
Doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
I don't need to. I do everything organically. I don't need to pay you to get me followers or this, because they have to be the right followers. I get people saying, "Hey, I saw your episode," or "This is good," and I bet you get the same thing. With some of the events that you did, or, "Hey, I missed your event. I heard it was awesome." So I think that, yes, it gets lost in the sea, but if we do the right, again, I use the word the right thing, but if we keep doing what we're doing, I think all that stuff takes care of itself. The people will vouch for you. I talk about your stuff all the time, and I know you advocate for Ticket Time Machine, and that's great. It's I
advocate for you, Matt.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
I am Ticket Time Machine right now. But I think it's good that we should just start. We should help people, because we're not. we're not in competition, even with the people. Like, you're not necessarily in competition with the other coaches out there. There's just people, you can't coach everyone.
No, I can't. And look, they're, I threw a bunch of whatever, let's say, under the bus a little bit, but look, anything that anybody can offer someone else that benefits them is a good thing. And I think that people now more than ever are more receptive to accepting guidance. Even the world's top executives have coaches and executive coaches and business coaches and so forth, and even all the way down. And look, my perception is this, I rely on other people to give me advice on things that I don't know much about. And I know a lot of things, and I've been around for a while, but there's a whole lot of things I don't know anything about. So I don't mind asking for, other people's expertise. And usually if you do it, and this is something I'll throw in there, a little bonus tip, people have a habit of asking for help. And I tell people all the time, and it's one of the parts of my book, I say, never ask for help, always ask for advice. Because if I said to you, Matt, listen, I need some help, it's like a 4-letter word. Suddenly you're like, uh-oh, what's that mean? He either needs some money or he needs me to help him move a couch or something or whatever it is, right? Help. But if you say, Matt, I'd love to get your advice on something, suddenly you're like, I'm good at giving advice. Yes, I'd love to give advice. And it may be the same sort of thing where I might say, Matt, I need your help. I need to find some way to get $10,000. And you're like, I guess. But if I said, Matt, I need some advice, I could use 10 grand to really get my business cranking. Do you have any ideas on how I can best get there? Well, you'll be like, yeah, I got some ideas. Blah, right?
I need help is pick your brain that people get all up in arms about. I'm like, it costs money to pick my brain. I'm like, well, not really. I mean, first, for one, if it's what you do, I guess, yes. But I had someone who wanted me to hire them without any type of free consultation. I'm like, even lawyers who charge an obscene amount of money give me a free consultation to be like, hey, why should I hire you? Because, I've done it. I've made the mistake of hiring the wrong person. And it cost a whole lot of money, but it was a waste of time. And, you feel like now you're hesitant to want to get help because you're like, does this really help me or not? Yeah.
You're absolutely right. So going forward, whoever's paying attention to this, try your best to, whenever you need anything, make an ask, couch it in a way where you're saying, look, I'd love to get your advice on something, or I'd love to get your insight. People love to give advice. Just understand that if you're asking for it, you're going to get it, right?
So hopefully, you wouldn't not give someone advice unless they said, look, I'm just not knowledgeable enough in that to give you advice that would be worthy of giving. The other part that you said is, a lot of people don't know what they don't know, right? Yeah. You're trying to find out but you don't know what you don't know. So it's always good to just get advice of others, or, brainstorm with others and bounce ideas of others. I have a conversation with anyone about that, because even within my world, I want us to elevate. I want the industry of what I'm doing to be thought of as something that's good and works. So I use the word rail. I rail against the people who put out these tickets that aren't tickets, and they do things the wrong way, because someone's gonna be like, well, we did that and it didn't sell. I'm like, if it didn't sell, it's not because it was this, it's because how you presented it, or, the program that you had, or, your plan or no plan, whatever that might be. So that's why I always want the people who are doing tickets to do better. And so I figure that's the same way for coaches. You want these coaches to be better, because if there's a coach who's, doing this and that's looked upon badly, it's going to be looked upon badly to you, regardless of.
Absolutely right. And look, there's unfortunately examples, and look, there's examples in every industry. There's bad lawyers, there's bad accountants, there's bad whatever it is, right? And so there's bad apples everywhere. And a lot of times they don't even realize they're being bad at it. They're just doing it, and they don't have enough training or skills or whatever it is. But
they're getting rewarded for it.
Yeah, which is frustrating too. I see there's certain people will say that are out there that are big names that are out there in the world of giving advice or whatever it is, and some of it's really cringeworthy. But the problem is they have audiences that just soak it up, and that's frustrating. But even look, I try my best to go back to that. Don't sweat the small stuff. Meaning, there's only so much I can do. And you said it earlier, and I loved it when you said, you're looking after person, not people. And it's the same thing where I try to do my best to influence people one at a time and help them one at a time. Because, let me take a step back real fast. I was doing some work a few years ago with the Olympic Committee. And, at the time they were saying to me, Mark, we're overwhelmed because we've got so many, Olympians that really need our help, thousands out there. And I said, look, don't worry about the thousands, worry about one. You help one and you give them the advice and the tips and the strategies that really help them out. They'll tell 3 of their friends, and those 3 will tell 3 others, and it'll grow that way organically. So you just need to worry about teaching people one at a time, and it'll multiply that way. That's a lot of what I try to do.
That's great. That's where I'll plug social media, because if I'm on LinkedIn and I'm on Twitter and I click like or share or comment on it, my whole network has the opportunity to see it. So that one thing can turn into it could be the right person. So that's what I do like about social media and why I need to be on it and be active on it and be genuine about it. Not just, I told this one guy who I see always congratulating, all of his thing is, congratulations or great job. I'm like, look, you got to comment is good, but you have to have something of substance.
Yes.
Other than just to be a yes.
You're right. I know. I always laugh at all those people that do that, right? They're like, Bob Smith gets a new job, and it'll be like, congrats, thanks, Bob. Thanks for the congrats. Really? So,
pleasantries or whatever. I'll send a private message. I do very little. I usually send a private message for that. Yeah. And look, a lot of times it is just might be me saying congrats. I don't have anything to say, and that's fine. But certain things should be sent privately and personally, instead of just, who wants to see 60 comments, congrats or great job or
right. I always got the kick from the I'll never forget on LinkedIn there was somebody who they had their thing toggled so that their network would get word that they had change in their status, and so they actually put in that their new position was unemployed, and so everybody, they were actually saying, congrats on your new job at unemployed. And I'm thinking, oh my God. So
stand out. Maybe that might have stood out to them.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Where do you find great content for what you're trying to do to build, to better yourself as a coach? Where do you look to for great content?
That's a great question. So there are a few books that I've read that really resonated with me that I thought are fantastic for sort of any business owner, and aside from mine, of course.
Aside from Win Again.
Aside from Win Again. Anyway, because it's it's a lot about the sort of mentality. There was oh my God, and I actually forgot the title now of it, but there was a book that it was basically you already know enough people in your network. I think it was oh shoot. I can't believe. But anyway, and he talks about, which is really cool, Bob Boudin, it's Baudine, talks about basically you already know enough people to be incredibly successful. You just need to start asking them for whether it's help or advice, advice and that sort of thing. But he'll say there's 1 or 2 people that are right next to you. Then there's sort of 6 people that are this circle, and then the circles expand. And he talks about what you can request from all of them to really jumpstart. You don't need to necessarily feel like you need to know new people. You can leverage the ones you have. I thought that was cool. There's another one, 80-20 Sales and Marketing, written by Perry Marshall. And it's a few years old, but it's a fantastic book about how you should be, number one, using the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, to focus on just the few people that are going to really crush your business. I mean, increase and grow it, versus worrying about the 80%, worry about the 20%. But then within that 20%, the 80-20 rule, so there's actually 4% of the people in your world that you're trying to sell that'll be the ones that you should focus on. And he talks about the power curve. So many things. That's a great resource. And there's also 2 more I'll mention. There's Jeff Walker, Product Launch Formula. Jeff Walker's great. I really, he's a little down homey for me, but he's still a very easy person to listen to his content. He's great. And then Ryan Levesque wrote a book called Ask, Ask, where he talks about a sort of a system that you can if you're trying to grow your network and your everything, how you can ask people certain questions that put them in certain buckets that allow you to then target them as a group in, almost individual groups kind of thing. So that's a good one too.
Read so much. I'm terrible at reading. You just target time, like say, hey, this hour I'm going to read, every day or every other day, or.
I don't have time to read. So these are books that I've read 14,000 years ago. No, I'm kidding. How do I, what it is that sometimes maybe on a weekend I'll pull one out and then I'll just try to bang through it as much as I can, because I used to be the king of half-read books, the book that I abandoned ship, right?
Yeah.
So, but I also have a bunch of yellow pads, and what I'll do is I'll actually take notes on a yellow pad from each book, and I can always tell the quality of a book by how many pages I've filled. I mean, I've read plenty where I don't even fill a full page of one, pad, and then there'll be others that I've filled 25 pages of with notes and so forth. So, and then I try to go back and review those every once in a while. But yeah, I mean, I recommend that. I know a lot of people like to do the Audible or the Kindle or something. I'm an old guy, and I think I like the feeling of satisfaction of turning a page, like I've completed something.
I'm distracted if I have this on in the background, and I won't be paying attention to it so much. We'll do a little rapid fire here as we get towards the end. What's your favorite? We're a memorabilia company. What's your favorite piece of memorabilia? It could be something you bought, something someone gave you. It could be a picture, anything really. Sign ball, bat.
So I like to tell people that I probably spent enough money with Steiner Sports, and Brandon Steiner's probably got a boat named after me or something. But my the most important thing that I own is I have the jersey that Andy Pettitte wore to win the final game at Yankee Stadium.
Oh wow!
So, and and I got that sort of by accident, but I'm thrilled to have it. So that's sort of a big centerpiece of my collection. I've got, whatever. I'm a huge collector. I got all kinds of stuff. I don't even know where to start. But that's probably the most important piece. But I like one of a kind stuff. So I've got a lot of one of a kind things and game worn things and game used. This
NFT then, because that's a one of a kind thing. What do you think about that?
It's funny. I was thinking about that this morning. Actually, I keep on reading about Gronk and his $1.6 million, whatever it is, and all this stuff. I don't quite. And then I was also thinking about how old I must be, because I don't quite understand it yet. And
it's not an age thing, I don't think. Also, you're terrible at your job. You forgot to point out that Brandon Steiner is going to be in the club room on April 6th, right? April 6th?
Correct. That's why I've got you.
We're trying to get Brandon. I've reached out to Brandon. We had a couple messages to get him on the Wolff Den. Would be a great.
He's really an interesting guy, because look, he was.
Tomorrow's guest is here for the NFT talk, because he's there
he is.
We're going to talk a lot about trading cards and NFTs tomorrow.
Good. This guy, by the way, he won't tell you this, but he's made $1.6 trillion in the last couple of months. So he is an absolute guy that you should have on. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that, Ashik. But so anyway, but no, I think look, it's one of those things where I think we're on the cusp of potentially crazy growth. My concern is sometimes with something that's not an actual thing, like, it's not an actual, like 1966 Topps Pete Rose or whatever it is. This is a thing, right? And there's a limited supply of those. I know there's a limited supply of these virtual things, but I'm a consumer who likes to touch stuff, and
I love it too.
But anyway,
were you at the Andy Pettitte game?
I'm sorry. Yeah,
you were at the game.
I was at it.
What's your favorite game that you've been to, and then what's a bucket list event? So
two separate answers to that. One, I was at the Super Bowl 42, and Eli Manning and the Dave Tyree catch, and that was an incredible experience, because the Giants fans went to that game pretty confident we were going to lose. We were like, whatever it was, 17-point underdogs or whatever, and the bonus was winning that game. It was fantastic. That was such an incredible experience. And then being
we went the whole time without a pause here.
Wow, that was weird. Am I back? Anyway.
Yeah, bucket list.
Oh, you didn't hear the Super Bowl one? Super Bowl 42.
No, that was the event you've been to. What's a
Yeah.
bucket list that you would love to go to that you've never been yet?
A couple different ones. One would be Augusta. I think it'd be cool to check out a round of golf there and either play there or just watch the Masters. You know, that'd be neat.
Sandwiches or something is all the craze there.
I'm sorry?
The sandwich thing with the Masters.
Oh, I don't know about that. I'd probably be focused more on the drinking part. But
there's some specialty, like you get a sandwich.
Oh yeah.
$1 or something. I don't know.
But that would be really neat. And there's a lot of other kind of bucket type things. But that was a good question.
On a lot of people's bucket list, it's so hard to get to for one. Last two questions. Give me your Mount Rushmore of sports. Either your favorite 4 or the best 4 ever. Give me your favorite 4. Best is two.
Okay, so
the 4 athletes of all time.
Well, I'm going to say no. I might go to. Well, I'll do a combination, but the Babe Ruth, Gretzky. Although I tend to lean towards Messier, but Gretzky, Messier, and then I'll say Magic Johnson, and
that's it.
Barry Sanders. What's that?
4. Mount Rushmore only has 4.
Yeah, no, I said. Oh, well, yeah, the other one was tied. There's 2 heads right next to each other, half faces each.
I'm doing a Mount Rushmore with 2 heads on it. You know that?
The guy's like, wait, don't do that one. Do the other one.
Well, I got a Mount Rushmore of half and half. I got Bo Jackson, half Royals, and half Raiders. Last question. We ask this of every guest. One person, you have 24 hours to spend with them. They have to be alive. You can't be related to them. Who is it, and what would you guys be doing? We're going to make this happen for one of our guests.
Oh my God, this is an easy question. Paul McCartney. I'm a huge Beatles fan.
Awesome.
And I would love to hang out with that guy and have a beer or two, and an incredible life.
He tells you some stories, I bet.
Absolutely.
You get a few in them.
I'm sure. And then I'll write a song with him, and then I'm done.
That's probably one of the tougher ones I've gotten.
Yeah, good luck with that one. Yeah.
It's on the list. We're going to work on it. Mark,
all right.
Great to talk to you. Check out Win Again Academy, In The Clubroom events, some great stuff coming on. There's already been some great – they have access. If they become a member, they have access to the past ones too. Those are all on replay.
All the recordings, YouTube channel is there. And then on top of that, some great events coming up. And consider joining the Academy, because we've also got the capability of being able to go 24/7 into the club room and be able to network with people anytime, day and night.
Yeah, that's great. We booked twice. I booked you not knowing I already booked Alex Sinatra at 5 p.m. Eastern today. So you're part of the double header.
Nice.
We're doing it late hours.
Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. So join us again at 5 today for Alex. Tomorrow, we're going to talk NFTs with Ashik, and also talk about some baseball cards and Flash Plays Live, which he's great business that he's doing. And I look forward to seeing you again. And that's it. Have a great day. Happy St. Paddy's Day. Have some green beer.
I will do that right now, Matt. I appreciate it. You're the best.
Talk to you later.
All right. See ya.
All right.